I never expected a simple summer visit would change everything. My nephew, Josh, was just supposed to stay for a few weeks while his mom, my sister, dealt with her divorce. He was 20, a college sophomore, polite, helpful, and always respectful. He'd always been close to me, maybe more than most aunts and nephews, but I chalked it up to our bond since he was little. He'd confide in me, ask for advice, help around the house without complaint. And I leaned on him more than I should have. My husband, Derek, barely noticed. He hadn't touched me in over a year. We shared a bed like roommates, and our conversations were dry, forced, often silent. There was no affection, no love, just habit. I had convinced myself that was enough, that it was normal. I blamed work, stress, time, but deep down I knew the truth. He checked out, emotionally and physically. And somehow, Josh noticed more than Derek ever did. One evening, after a quiet dinner, we were alone in the kitchen. I was washing dishes and Josh was drying them. We stood close, not touching, but I could feel his energy shift. He hesitated before speaking. "Can I tell you something?" he asked, voice low, uncertain. I nodded, not expecting what came next. "I've had this wish," he said. "It's probably stupid, but I've thought about it for years. And now that I'm here, I had to say it." I stopped what I was doing and turned to face him. "What kind of wish?" He looked at the floor, nervous, cheeks flushed. "I know it's wrong, and I don't expect anything. But I've always had feelings for you. Not just a little crush, real feelings. And I've never told anyone. I just had to get it out." The room felt smaller. I stared at him, heart racing, caught between shock, confusion, and something else, something I didn't want to admit. I should have shut it down right away. I should have told him no, that it was inappropriate, that I was married, that he was my nephew. I should have reminded him of every reason this was impossible. But instead, I just stood there. I didn't scold him. I didn't walk away. I didn't even speak for a full minute. And when I finally did, all I could manage was, "That's a lot to process." He apologized, tried to backtrack, said he understood if I hated him now. But I didn't hate him. I was flattered. More than that, I felt seen, desired, like a woman again, not just a forgotten wife. That night, I lay awake for hours, thinking about his words. Not just the confession, but the way he looked at me, like I mattered, like I was still someone worth loving. And in that moment of weakness, I let the thought stay. I should have said no. I should have drawn a line. But I didn't. And that was the beginning of everything I couldn't take back. After that night, everything changed. We didn't talk about what he said, but the air between us was different, charged. He was careful, overly polite, but his eyes lingered longer, and I caught myself returning the glance. I told myself it was nothing, just tension from the awkward conversation. But it wasn't. I felt it every time he entered the room, the way my pulse sped up, the way my body responded to just his presence. I kept my distance the first few days, avoided being alone with him. But it was my house. Derek worked late, sometimes overnight. Josh stayed in to help, and it became impossible not to interact. One afternoon, I dropped a glass, and he rushed to help. Our hands touched. That moment, just skin on skin, it made me flinch. Not from disgust. From how much I felt. He apologized again for what he'd said, but this time I stopped him. I told him I wasn't angry. I told him I understood. That I'd been lonely. That I didn't remember the last time anyone looked at me the way he did. He listened, quiet, eyes full of something that scared and excited me. There was a pause. One of those heavy silences where everything changes. And then he kissed me. It was soft, tentative, almost respectful. I should have pulled away. I didn't. I kissed him back. For a second. Then I stopped. I told him it was wrong. He said he knew, but he didn't regret it. I told him it couldn't happen again. He nodded. We didn't speak for the rest of the night. But the next day, I found myself waiting to see him. Wanting to. I wore perfume for the first time in months. Fixed my hair. Told myself it was just to feel good. But I knew the truth. We crossed the line again. One evening, the house was quiet. Derek had called to say he'd be out late. Josh was reading on the couch. I sat beside him. We didn't say anything. He reached for my hand, slowly, as if asking permission. I let him. Then he leaned in again. That time, I didn't stop him. I let it happen. Everything I hadn't felt in years came rushing back. Want, intimacy, connection. It was messy, confusing, desperate. I hated myself in the moment, even as I gave into it. Afterward, we just sat there in silence, both of us knowing we'd gone too far. I told him again that it had to stop, that it wasn't fair to him, to me, to anyone. He said he'd follow my lead. But I had no direction. I didn't sleep that night. I stared at the ceiling, replaying every moment, wondering who I had become. I had crossed a line I never thought I'd even approach. And once I crossed it, I couldn't pretend it hadn't happened. I wanted to stop. I just didn't know how. I tried to return to normal, but there was no normal left. I avoided him, stayed busy, pretended things were fine. But I could feel him watching me, waiting for a sign. I couldn't give him one. The guilt had settled in. I was snapping at Derek more, paranoid he'd noticed something, though he barely looked at me. I analyzed every word, every glance, wondering if I was slipping. I deleted texts that weren't even inappropriate, just in case. I stopped wearing makeup around Josh, as if that could undo what had happened. He kept his distance too, but there was sadness in his eyes. I could see the questions he wasn't asking. Then came the first real scare. I left my phone on the table. Derek picked it up to check the time, and a notification popped up, a message from Josh, just 2 words. I miss you. It wasn't explicit, but it wasn't innocent either. Derek looked at it. I felt my blood drain. He didn't say anything, just set the phone down and left the room. Nothing happened after, no confrontation, but I knew. He suspected something. I confronted Josh the next day. Told him to never text anything like that again. He looked hurt but nodded. I just wanted to talk, he said. Like before. But we couldn't go back. Every word between us carried weight now. Every silence was louder than the last. Then came the family dinner. My sister wanted us all together, and I had no excuse. We sat across from each other like strangers. I felt like I couldn't breathe. My sister made a joke about how Josh used to follow me around as a kid. He had the biggest crush on you, she laughed. Everyone chuckled. I froze. He looked at his plate. My husband didn't even blink. After that night, I couldn't sleep. I was unraveling, jumping at every sound, flinching when my husband walked in a room. I found myself staring in the mirror, disgusted. I avoided my sister's calls. Avoided everyone. I kept wondering if I'd be exposed. I started rehearsing lies just in case. The stress wore me down. I lost weight. People started noticing. You look tired, they said. I was exhausted. Then it happened. Derek came home early one day, unexpected. I was in the backyard. Josh had been helping me move something. He brushed dirt from my shoulder. That simple, innocent gesture, Derek saw it from the kitchen window. Later that night, he asked, "Are you and Josh close?" The way he said it made my stomach turn. I lied. I said he was just helping around the house. Derek nodded, but the way he looked at me, I knew he didn't believe it. I sat awake in bed that night, waiting for the fallout, wondering if he'd confront me, or worse, tell my sister. Nothing came, just silence. And that silence was worse than shouting. It meant he knew something. And I didn't know how much longer I could keep hiding. It didn't stay quiet for long. 2 days after that look, Derek came home in a mood I hadn't seen in years. Cold, sharp, calculated. He didn't yell. He didn't ask. He stated, "I know what's going on." I didn't respond. I couldn't. He stared at me, eyes hollow. "You and Josh. Don't lie to me." I opened my mouth, but the truth was already written on my face. He turned and walked out of the house. That was the end of our marriage. I told him everything. Not because I wanted to, but because lying was pointless. He told me I was disgusting. That I wasn't who he married. That he hoped I'd rot with the shame. And I did. But the worst part hadn't happened yet. My sister called the next morning. She knew something was off. Derek had called her. Not all the details, but enough to raise suspicion. She asked if there was something she should know. I couldn't speak. My silence was louder than anything I could have said. Please tell me you didn't, she whispered. I broke. I confessed. Every word shattered something between us. Her voice went from disbelief to rage to pure devastation. You were like a second mother to him, she said. And you threw that away. She told me to never contact her again. She told me I was dead to her. And just like that, I lost my sister, my best friend, my family. Josh disappeared. He left within days. Moved back to campus early. Blocked me. No text, no call, not even goodbye. I heard from a distant relative. He transferred schools. No one knows where. I don't blame him. What started as an emotional gap turned into a collapse. I was left alone in a house full of reminders. My husband filed for divorce. I didn't fight it. There was nothing left to save. I went through the motions, lawyers, paperwork, explanations I couldn't give. People started whispering. Friends pulled away. I became someone they pitied. Or worse, someone they judged from a distance but never spoke to again. I think about Josh sometimes. Not in a romantic way, not anymore. I think about the look on his face when he said he loved me. I wonder if it was real. Or just fantasy. I wonder if he regrets it. If he hates me. If he's trying to forget it ever happened. I hope he's okay. I hope he's free of the mess I dragged him into. And me? I wake up every day knowing I made a choice I can never undo. I hurt people I loved. I destroyed a bond that can't be rebuilt. I have no excuses. No justifications. Only the memory of a moment that felt like love, but cost everything. He had a wish. I granted it. And in doing so, I lost my marriage, my sister, my reputation, and the one person who ever truly looked at me like I mattered. There are no happy endings here. Just silence, and the echo of my own mistake.